To join the lining to the sleeve, we need to straighten the lining inside the sleeve first. Using these basting stitches will help us place the lining in the proper position. Otherwise, the lining may pull on the sleeve or be visible from the hemline. Place your hand inside the lining, spread your fingers and bring out your hand gently to position the lining. We check to see if the seam lines of the lining and the shell are aligned. If they're not, we make sure to align them. Once they are aligned, we pin about 10 cm from the hemline along the seam line, catching both the shell and the lining. Repeat on the other seam. Again, we make sure the lining is not being pulled or has any slack in it between the pins and the baseline. Holding the sleeves like this, we pin between the pins like this, with the same distance from the edge. We do the same on the other sleeve. If the sleeve has been shortened too much, the lining might be too long. In this case, we can leave 2 cm past the hemline and trim away the excess lining. This makes it easier to do the next steps. Next, we turn the sleeve end inside out. It is best if these pins are visible. Now we need to fold the edge of the lining inward. If our sleeve hem allowance is wide, we can fold the lining back up to about 3 cm from the hem of the sleeve. But if the hem allowance of the sleeve is narrow, we can fold back the lining about 2 cm. Here we will fold the lining back to about 3 cm from the sleeve hem. The best thing is to measure and pin mark. Measure 3 cm and pin like this all the way around. Repeat for the other sleeve. Now we need to adjust the fold to line it up with the pin marked line. Starting from one of the seams, slide open or fold the lining a bit more to bring it to the pin line and pin the folded lining in place. We make sure the folded lining is laying flat and it is not too short or too long. Sometimes we need to let out from the lining hem allowance seams if the hem feels tight. If we do this to the lining, we merge the new seam lines with the previous ones at the lining hemline, the same way as we did for the sleeve shell. First we adjust along one seam, then the other, then in between the two. Sometimes when we do alterations, we notice that the lining is too large in this area. If this is the case, you can take in the excess from the lining seam lines. The lining might feel tight, but it is because we are working with the hem turned inside out. Once we turn it right side out, it will be okay. Repeat for the other sleeve. Remove these pin marks. Remove these pins as well. To leave some movement ease in the lining and allow the lining to move inside the sleeve, we will sew the lining to the shell about 1 centimeter back from the folded edge of the lining. This way, as we move our arm, the lining will not pull on the shell. To do this, we first need to baste the lining to the shell, close to the folded edge of the lining. Baste through all the layers. Now we remove these pins. We can see that the lining inside the sleeve is not tight or loose. Remove this basting thread as well. Repeat for this sleeve. Next we will sew the lining to the shell by machine.